Hi guys, my name is Girish, the host for Back2Basics, another Back2Basics for another week. I hope you're enjoying all the episodes so far, and I'm so psyched because I'm just excited for every episode that I record. So today we have a guest. We're going to talk to you about career coaching, or career making, or career breaking. That's up to you to decide at the end of the episode. But it is a little twist, and we'll talk to you about that today. So today we have Danielle on the call, and she's an amazing gal, and I've spoken to her maybe 3-4 weeks back. I'm not really sure when, but she's been a great friend since I've met her. You should connect with her whenever you get a chance, and she's amazing. So guys, let's invite Danielle into the show. Danielle, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Well, that was a very nice intro. I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me, and how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you so much for coming on my show. Definitely very honored. So before we get into the career growth and career break and career anything, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
Yeah, so I think that my whole life I've sort of learned from a place of curiosity and critical thinking. But before you sort of let your mind wander, I think there are definitely these bedrocks of who you are, right? Your values and your beliefs that you really have to understand first, right? And a lot of the time we tend to be stimulated by what's around us and want to jump and jump in, right? It's so exciting because there's so much going on and there's so much newness that we tend to forget about the basics, right? We tend to forget that we are in control of everything, of how we act, how we think, how we behave in the world, and how we really choose to shape our lives. Yeah. So back to basics for me means going back to your values, going back to your beliefs, and either questioning them, right? Reframing them, maybe. But starting from there, and then using that as sort of your magnifying glass for exploring the world around you.
Well, thank you so much, because it seems like I ask the same question to every guest of mine, and it looks like there's a different perspective from a different point of view from everybody. So thank you again for answering that question. And again, thank you again for coming to Back to Basics and making this show brighter for me. So, Danielle, about the career growth, how important is it to have a career? I think I don't know if it is a crazy question, but it seems like it's a question that people do ask. How important is that?
Yeah, so that question makes me think about, on average, how much time you actually spend working in your life. Of course, you have to work to support your family. You have to work to support yourself. So there's this element of necessity, obviously. There's also, when I think about careers, I think you spend 80 to 100,000 hours working in your life. And I think it's really important, and what career really means is having the wherewithal, the forethought to sit down and think about, okay, I have this many hours to contribute to a problem in the world, and or just myself, right? Invest in myself. What do I really want to do with those 80 to 100,000 hours that I have? And I think we owe it to ourselves and the world around us to ask ourselves that question.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what a career means. A career is really living the reflection of who you want to be and leading by example in order to get to that end goal, whatever that is.
Yeah, whatever that end goal is. Yeah, definitely. So let me ask you a different way and different question. I've worked at this company for X amount of years, and now with this whole pandemic, or even without pandemic, I'm getting bored now. What do I do to, I don't know, up my game or level up my game? How would I do that?
Yeah. I think that question is super in line with how people tend to think, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're unhappy at a job, or you're bored, or you're unsatisfied, you tend to look outside of yourself, right? What can I do to change? What can I do to be better?
Mm-hmm.
And I see this happen a lot. I saw this happen in college when I looked around and I thought, everyone here is trying to fit a mold, right? Everyone's going to try to work at McKinsey, and they're studying for hours and hours and hours, and they're trying to change, their behavior or fit a certain thing that McKinsey's looking for, right? And that's just an example.
Yeah.
And also, nothing's wrong with McKinsey, but I just saw this trend of people trying to fit a mold. And I think typically that is what we try to do. We think, oh, there's something wrong with us. Same thing happens in dating, right? And so I think it's very important when you notice, right, this feeling of discomfort is really what it is. Mm. It's important to look at, okay, is it me or is it external, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's external, then you bring it back to yourself and you say, okay, what can I do in this moment to make my situation better, or make, lift myself up? Mm. Use this moment as a moment of working the moment versus just living the moment to be stronger, right? It's like picking up a weight at the gym. And so what I'll say to someone who says, I'm unhappy, or, I'm unfulfilled at my job, I'll say, well, think about your values, right? Look inward and think, maybe what are the things that you're missing as part of your day-to-day, right? Are you fulfilled in your service, right? If service, acts of service and doing good for others is a value of yours, as it is mine, are you doing that in your daily or weekly or monthly life? And could you potentially build that into your day in order to get that fulfillment? Or if you're looking for fulfillment in your day-to-day, which I do, and that's what led me to the career I currently am in, right? I think that it's sort of, where do you want that fulfillment to come from, and where do you want to bake it into your life in order to check off, the different parts of yourself? I think we tend to not really think through that 80 to 100,000 hours decision. And we only maybe think about, okay, this job is going to make me, or this career path is going to be super lucrative, right? So we go and chase that. And then once we have our dream job, we then say, oh, okay, I have the dream job, but I'm still missing something and I don't know what it is. And that can be extremely uncomfortable. And truly, I think people tend to be afraid of their own potential, right? And they choose not to explore it. So I think it's really important to think about all the different parts of your life that you want to find fulfillment in, right? And what parts of your life are really crucial and essential to finding that.
So is that was that the thinking process every time, or is that a new way of thinking?
I think that the pandemic gave a lot of people the opportunity to reflect. And, when I think we live in such a fast-paced world, things are changing so quickly. We often don't even have time, right, for our families or friends. I definitely have gone through periods of time like that myself. And there isn't as much reflection maybe as we deserve to give ourselves, right? It's part of self-care. So I think this checking in and noticing the emotions that come our way versus just sort of burying them and not talking about them, maybe because mental health is stigmatized, right? Could be one reason why we don't talk about it, or because we're afraid of our potential, right? We're afraid to be the full expression of who we truly are. I think it's still really important to sort of explore that. And so the check-ins, I think the more that you do it, right, the more that your emotions as a reminder and as an indicator, rather than thinking about them as, a positive or negative emotion, the better your intuition is actually able to guide you, and the better you're able to actually tune in to your intuition and actively take the right steps to changing your life, whether that be, following your curiosity, right, trying a new hobby, or trying out more networking, right? That's what I did during the pandemic. Was I really did try to build out my network further, because I realized that mentorship was something that I craved, and it was something that I felt like I needed in my life to give me a little bit more direction and get me closer to the things that were interesting to me. So, I'm writing a book on this stuff. So one of the chapters that I'm writing about is really mentorship, and what are the different types of mentors that you can bring into your life in order to breathe that life into it, right? And enrich it in the right ways that you're really looking for. So I think the constant sort of checking in, right, your emotions and journaling is something that I've done, in the past and still do sometimes today. And I think there are ways that you could definitely find, more balance and support and guidance. And you just have to be willing and open to accepting that and looking for it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, by the way. So now, what do you do? So let me explain to the audience of what you do. Can you explain what you do? Then we can go from there on that.
Yes, I can. So I'm a workplace futurist. I aim to foster an elevated consciousness around the intersection of identity, culture, and education. So essentially what that means is I dream of a world where everyone feels valued, supported, fulfilled, and all the good things in the workplace and beyond. And so I bring people together and write content, and I'm doing community building to bring people together to talk about really how we get there. And so I think that with the pandemic, things have changed so drastically, right? These conversations about workplace and the future of work and self-discovery are more frequent, and I think that's a beautiful thing. So I'm trying to have a hand in that conversation and contribute from the perspective of a Gen Zer who has recently entered her career and who has never worked a day in a real workplace. So I think what that brings to the conversation is a perspective from, right, a unique perspective on its own, and also like sort of an outside perspective of, here are the things that I've seen my friends really struggle with. Here are the things that I've struggled with, right? Among them, a toxic workplace, an acquisition of a company during the pandemic, nonetheless. A really great workplace that I was really upset to leave. And struggling, I think, the most, and this is where the idea for the book came from, with this idea that you have to fit a certain mold. And it was an idea that I never agreed with. And today, culture fit, right, from a company and organizational perspective, is no longer something that really people idealize. It's more about the culture add. And so I noticed that these trends and these things that I would realize, like my own realizations throughout college and throughout looking for jobs and the right place for me, were actually trends that I was seeing happen before they became really apparent to the rest of the world, and even talked about. So as such, I'm writing this book about values-based job searching on this side, and I do have a day job, which I can get to, but essentially the book serves as this roadmap for people who are maybe recently graduated, people who are in the workforce and find themselves a little bit lost, as you mentioned earlier, and who are looking for a different way to go about their job search. One that I believe will get them closer to feeling fulfilled in their careers. And whether that happens, right, it's a process, whether that happens in 2 months or that happens 3 jobs from now, right, 3 roles from now, or in 5 years, I think it's something that, given this process of values-based job searching and understanding where the future of work is going, right, things like psychological safety or diversity, equity, and inclusion, what are companies offering, right? You can sort of get a better understanding of what you want. And then you can conduct your job search in a way that is more informed, and where you feel like you have more of an authority and power and control over your own life and your own destiny. And in my day job, I am the director of growth and marketing for a company called Cafe, and we essentially help people decide where to work from. So we're a collaboration and communication tool for teams. And essentially what I loved about this role and what ultimately drew me to it was this belief that we can start over. The way that we've traditionally gone to the office and treated the office, right, the 9 to 5, didn't actually work for everyone, and that we can start to reshape it around providing the proper experiences, right, the flexibility that people so need, and really want, and also give them visibility into who they're working with, so that things like loneliness occur less often, and really allow them to collaborate and connect with people both in and out of the office. You know, building culture and and increasing retention and all that fun stuff that we're really trying to create more of.
So you made up a good point. Definitely, the culture is definitely changing in many different ways. We all know that. So let me ask you a question between an oldie like in my times versus the Gen Zs. Okay, back in my times, we used to get a job, and then we work our butts off to do well, and then get promoted and whatever in that same company for the longest time. Nowadays, Gen Zs, what they have done is, this is what I've noticed from my point of view. There's no one else's point of view, by the way. So my point of view is that they get a job, and they get a great salary and great healthcare and everything else. But within like 5 months later, 6 months later, they quit and they go to another place. Does that mean that Gen Zs are more experimental phase now than when we used to be a little scared that we might not get another job later on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things, I think. First of all, we see a world of opportunity. We're entrepreneurial by spirit. There was a study, I forget who did it, but it was 72% of high school students want to start a business. And we have the tools to do it, right? We grew up with technology, so we're not afraid. I've heard multiple stories of parents being pushed and helped by their kids during the pandemic to launch their own businesses, and giving them the confidence, right, to say, hey, you actually know what you're talking about. You should go after it. Like, what do you have to lose? So I think that's one. I think secondly, unfortunately, employers aren't really in touch with what we need for the most part. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. It might be something that I end up pursuing, but I think there's a really big difference between managing a new generation of workers in the workforce. And Gen Z wants guidance, but we also want that entrepreneurial opportunity to explore the things that we want to explore. So one of the trends that I've seen is actually organizations like Amazon, them for sure, that have opened innovation labs internally, giving young workers the opportunity to experiment and giving them that entrepreneurial opportunity. So those are a couple things. I think third, traditionally, right, in the baby boomer generation, my mom is a boomer, and she worked for probably 15 years for the same organization. The same thing does not happen these days. I mean, on the rare occasion, but on average, I think the churn rate is like 2.4 years, something like that. And then for in tech, it's 1.8. So yeah, we have the opportunity to go, around, and I think also the pandemic sort of changed things as well. Like it's more normal and natural because we have these conversations about mental health. We have them about, self-discovery, and it's a little bit more normal, right? And telling the story about how you might have taken 6 months off to go travel is a lot more widely accepted today than it would have been
back in the days, right?
30 years ago, yeah. Right? And we don't have the same level of loyalty. So I think you can show your commitment to a company in different ways, other than just staying with them because, for the heck of it.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not getting the opportunity that is helping you grow, then you're not going to stay. And that's just common sense. But back then, it would be, if you're not growing, you're probably doing your job bad, and you should just work harder, and you have to stay because you have to put food on the table. Work isn't supposed to be enjoyable, but today I think we're very much awakened in that we want to enjoy work, and we know that opportunity is one that we can go after.
Yeah, but the trend nowadays is that we are all want to be entrepreneur, more like a businessman or a businesswoman, right? And so is that the new career that we should be looking at instead of big companies like that? What are your thoughts on that? Because it looks like the US, in our country, the US, right? We I don't know, we love small business folks, and that's how the US country is run by. So why do we need the 500 Fortune companies versus the small business? Do you have any idea on that from the trend that you've seen so far?
So let me just make sure I'm understanding your question right. You're saying, why do we need businesses within larger companies?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a talent competition thing, right? Like the reason why they're creating these innovation labs and smaller businesses within businesses is because people want innovation. They want, they want to have the opportunity and freedom. That's really what we're after here is freedom to create, right? Freedom to explore and discover. And and also innovation means that there's growth, opportunities for growth. And so I think that part of the conversation is really about talent retention, than it is about business. And of course, right, if you keep people happy, they're going to be more creative and productive and fulfilled. Fulfillment is where that really starts.
Sure.
Right? Because the reason that someone's searching for the innovation is because that will give them a sense of fulfillment. It'll contribute to that.
Well, the bigger companies, companies need to give a little incentive to these guys that, here's a new challenge for you. They'll be a little excited. Gen Zs will be more excited for the new experiment, as I'm saying.
Exactly. And there's a lot less risk also, right? For the risk-averse people who still love innovation, there's an opportunity for them to, even though they are risk-averse and might have gone one path and, work at the consulting company and did the straight and narrow and the expected thing, they still have the opportunity now that they're in to then go and explore and do new things.
Sure.
And big companies like that would rather keep their employees, right? It's probably a lower cost for them to keep the employee and incentivize them to stay by giving them that opportunity, right? That 40 grand, whatever, to run the innovation lab than it would for them to leave.
Sure. That is true. That is true. Thank you for that. So, when are we going to be seeing this book? It seems like I'm very excited about this book myself, and I think I want to contact you when that is out. I will buy it from you, or I'll get it from you. How about that?
Yeah, no, I'm going to send you a signed copy. That is no question. So essentially, I'm doing this program with book creators, and it's essentially a program that Eric Koester, he's a serial entrepreneur and professor, he created, and it's genius. I think it's one of the Fortune's top something companies, fast growing companies, and essentially gives an opportunity for first time authors to come to the table and learn how to write a book. So it's been an incredible journey so far. Still in I'm still in the process, I'd say. So my published date is May 2022, which means that I will be reaching out to you in probably early next year.
Cool.
And it's a great graduation gift. That's what I'll say.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And definitely I will have that book, and it better be signed, and it better be signed by you, because later when
With
you
a personal note and everything.
because when you become a great author, I'm pretty sure I can sell this on eBay saying that this is a valuable autograph. But thank you so much for that. So,
Yeah.
first of all, thank you again for coming on Back to Basics. What do you have any last words before I let you go today? And hopefully you have learned a lot from Back to Basics. I'm not sure, but I've learned a lot.
Definitely learned a lot. I'd say to anyone looking for a job, do not sell yourself short. You deserve everything that you want and more. And if it doesn't fit you, it's not for you. So just remember that. And go sell yourself. Go talk about how great you are, because that's how you get to the right place. If someone is able to recognize you for who you are and what you bring, and truly recognize it and grow you, invest in you, then that's the place. That's where you want to be. And also fulfillment. I mean, that's number one.
Of course.
So those are my last words.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on my show, and thank you again for being here, and hopefully we'll be in touch even after this, because it seems like you're a cool person to hang out with, and definitely to pick your brain too at the same time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again. So guys, we spoke with Danielle today, and we talked about the basics of career coaching, career experting, quitting, not quitting, experimenting. Those are the words that we use today. Those are the words that you need to up your skills or level up your skills, or just experiment a little. And just like what you said in the last minute, you know what she said, right? She said, sell yourself, but not to the extreme to sell anything bad, obviously, but always good and positive. As usual, as always, there is a quote of the day from Back to Basics, and here's a quote of the day. The quote of the day is, sometimes you can... I can't even read now. Let me see here. You know what? Back to Basic needs glasses then. It looks like, sometimes you can fail in an experiment, but if you fail, you still can't stop observing that thing, looking for a better way. Isn't that what we said? I think that's what we said, but we said that in a different way. What we said is, sell yourself, be yourself, and do whatever you can for making the best life ever for you. Never sell yourself short. So as usual, as always, what do I always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care. God bless. Comment my episode. Good, bad, ugly, either way, it'll make my show stronger day by day, week by week. And just remember, everything in life goes back to basics. And I'll see you next week, guys. God bless. Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
Girish, we hear so much about the power of authenticity, especially now post-pandemic. People are drawn to the idea of being authentic. But that implies that we are being authentic with our work as well, not just who we are as human beings. So authenticity, professional authenticity matters just as much.
So thank you for that, by the way. So now we're talking from the business point of view and marketing point of view, right? But what about personal life? Do you think we should be branding ourselves in our personal life also?
Say our passions